Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faisal Abbas. I'm the editor-in-chief of Arab News. You're going to be seeing me twice this afternoon, but certainly I would believe this is the more exciting fireside chat or in conversation session. We are here in Delphi, known for the myth or the legacy of Oracle and for telling the future. And I think if the description applies to anybody, it applies to my guest this afternoon. Mohamed Amersi is a man who wears many hats. He is deeply involved in British politics, one of the biggest donors to the Conservative Party, certainly has influence in a number of political influence in a number of capitals around the world, involved in many discussions. He's also a philanthropist and a businessman, but you are here with us today exclusively in the capacity of the Oracle. And our session will be discussing the impact of President Trump on Europe and the Middle East. To be fair, for anybody who has attended most of the sessions, I think President Trump has been the dominant topic of all of the sessions of the conference, unsurprisingly so, because a lot of things that have been happening took the world by surprise. Mr. Amersi, in the short time that we have, I would like us to start perhaps in the UK, which is a good starting point, and then move east towards the Middle East. Now, Prime Minister Starmer has done a magnificent effort and attempt to try to win back that privileged position for the United Kingdom, the special relationship with the United States, perhaps to be exempted from the tariffs, perhaps to get some sort of favoritism. It does not look like it has succeeded, at least from the outside. How do you rate the US-UK relationship with the current Labour government?
So thank you very much, Faisal. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for listening to us. To answer your question, I think that Trump is only for himself, and it is all about America first, America alone. I'm not sure that Trump really values friends and allies, as we have seen what has happened. And in this context, you have to really ask yourself, what does the UK stand for? Out of Europe, it is alone. Confronting China, it is alone. Confronting Russia, it is by itself. So what is Europe, what is UK really, and what is its real value to the United States? I would say that its real value to the United States at the moment is through the Five Eye intelligence sharing network, because historically the UK has been at the forefront of that. And I think that their special operations, the SAS and other services that were training in Ukraine well before this conflict started, are very, very clever, very intelligent, and they know how to fight asymmetrical wars. So those at the moment are the only two uses. The UK had a superb chance to be the bridge between the US and Europe. They blew that chance. UK had a super chance to be the bridge between US and Asia. They've largely blown that as well. The only thing that is going for them, but as of now they don't quite know how to leverage that, is their pivotal role in the Commonwealth, which is 52 member states, but they don't quite know how to leverage that. If they figure out how to leverage that, I think that we will see some traction. Final point I would make is that the UK is a nuclear power, is a member of the UN Security Council, one of the P5, but there are also question marks as to what really does the UK stand for in the P5, and should the P5 be restructured so you bring in powers like India and Brazil that probably account for far more of the GDP and have far bigger voice. So I think a lot will change, and I'm not sure that the chemistry and the political alignment between Trump and Starmer is such that they could ever foster a strong personal bond, let alone aligning the UK and US interests.
So to close this chapter, I think it would be safe to say that you don't predict a return to the special relationship that we once saw under Churchill or even Tony Blair and George Bush. This is as far as the United Kingdom. Now, moving a bit more east, let's talk about Europe. I know the topic has been extensively discussed throughout other panels, but you have your ear to the wall on many of these conversations, and you are involved in many of them as well. The session just before us had been talking about the Ukraine-Russia war. Europe, of course, perhaps like many in the world, has been caught by surprise with the incident in the White House that occurred with President Zelensky. This almost from a hero to zero approach that happened between the Biden and the Trump administration. Where should, and then of course the more eminent danger as of last night, but not this morning, is the tariffs, what could possibly start a global tariffs war. How do you assess the US-European relationship in what is left of the Trump administration, which, just for the record, has been less than 3 months so far? So we still have 4 years.
Sure. So I feel sorry for Europe. Europe were, after the Second World War, forcefully disarmed by the United States, largely on the basis that the US would be the protector, the guarantor of European security forever. Sadly, this has not happened now, and Europe has woken up a little bit late, I believe, but it's never too late. They need to build up their independent defense forces. It will take a lot to do this. If you look at the steel plants in Germany, especially in the UK, they are being dismantled left, right, and center. So capacity building in the military and armament space will take time. But I think that this is a wake-up call for Europe, that if Europe wants to be independent, wants to be strong, it needs to have a strong defense establishment. So far, it hasn't. On NATO, I'm pessimistic. I think that if you look at Article 5, and there were discussions around this before, if you look at the nature of war, Article 5 of NATO treaty, i.e. an attack on one is an attack on all, is out of mode. It's completely unfit for purpose. Why? Because war today is not the war that was there when the NATO treaty was signed. There is not going to be any more as much invasions, troops invading and conquering and then keeping. The wars are going to be cyber wars. The wars are going to be biological wars. And in that, ask yourself, what is Article 5? What does it mean that if somebody hacks my internet, what am I going to do? Whose internet am I going to hack in return? So Article 5, if they really want that to have any muscle, it needs to be completely rewritten and strengthened to look at the conflicts of tomorrow. Star wars, biological wars, and cyber wars. We heard about drones and cyber attacks where they undermine our undersea cables, they undermine and hack our power plants. That's where the war is going to be. And I'm not sure NATO or Article 5 is suitable for that.
Would you agree with the premise that should an end of the war, I would not use the word peace, perhaps some people might be sensitive towards it or have different points of view of what defines peace, but let's call it the end of the hostilities between Russia and Ukraine, and whatever agreement is reached, whether by force or mutually, would you agree with the premise that the biggest loser has been not Ukraine but Europe in what has been almost a 3-year mayhem that could have been perhaps averted if we had reached the negotiations earlier?
So the points I'm going to express now are my points of view. They may sound somewhat controversial, and I want to apologize for that in advance if it doesn't suit with the point of view of the audience. First, I think you need to ask yourself, why did this war start in the first place? Russia had legitimate demands, which is that they did not want Ukraine to join NATO, they did not want Ukraine to join the EU. And I used the example that if China decided to post missiles in the Channel Islands facing the United Kingdom, what would be the UK position be? They would just say, oh, fine, don't worry about it. We are comfortable with this. Stick your missiles here. Most likely not. Zelensky, in my view, and I have had discussions with his defense minister, Rustam Umarov, who I've known for more than a decade. We were doing telecom businesses in Africa together, okay? And I think that there was a mistake in a judgment issue. If at the time that Lavrov met with Blinken in Geneva, just before the invasion happened, the Ukrainian invasion, all that Zelensky needed to have said is that during my tenure as president, which could be another 5 years, I don't believe that we will be joining either NATO or the EU. Now, ask yourself the question, to join EU, Turkey still hasn't joined. It's taken it 15 years of trying and not been able to join. It's a very long, complicated process that needs to happen. The same for NATO. 27 member states have to sign off and a new member joining. So he could have said very quickly, very easily, that I'm not sure that during my tenure as head of state, this is likely to happen. If that had happened, then the leverage would have been very, very much on Ukraine, because Russia would have had no cause absolutely at all to invade. Today, when you look at the divisions, the global south is either on the fence or are saying that the Russian position is correct. And then you have the nationalizing north versus the global south. The nationalizing north has by and large supported the Ukrainian position. But the real losers in this war, and I'm sorry, I differ from you, are firstly the Ukrainian people, secondly the Russian people, thirdly the Europeans, and the winners are the United States and China, by and large. And I would also say one other thing before we move on. So in this situation, unfortunately, you are going to have my prognosis of Ukraine is that there will be an election in Ukraine. Unfortunately, Zelensky will not win this election. Somebody that is friendlier to the Russian position is more likely, either through fixing or whatever comes out of it, I don't know, but they will ensure that somebody who is going to be a little bit more nuanced in his resolution of this. And then I will say that my impression here is that the West there are different opinions in the West. One opinion says that this war was not really about helping the Ukrainian people. This war was only about completely trying to weaken Russia so that Russia does not pose any threat to the West in Africa or in the Middle East or in other theaters of operation. Because when you look at Afghanistan, you look at Libya, you look at parts of Africa, Wagner Group and Russia prevailed over the West. So here is a situation where Russia has gotten bogged down in Ukraine and poses less of a threat to the Western interests everywhere else. This was the real agenda, to weaken Russia and to really ensure that it gets bogged down in Ukraine. Now, the other point of view, of course, is that people were concerned about Ukrainian citizenship and their people and their safety and their independent right to be able to determine their fate if they choose. But I think that they could have easily chosen the Finland model, which is we are neither East nor West. We want to be independent. We want to be securing our economic independence. We are going to be partners and doing business with both. That chance was there. Unfortunately, it was lost.
We have 4 minutes left, and we are moving furthermore to the east, although the topic I'm about to discuss requires 4 hours, not 4 minutes. But let me ask you, because I do know that you have an inside track to a lot of what's going on in Iran. Saturday is going to be a pivotal day with the indirect negotiations or discussions that are about to happen in Oman between the United States and Iran. Now, the stakes are high. There has been movement of American troops to the Gulf in a way that sends a message to Iran that, you better play ball, otherwise we are serious. There's also limited expectations as to what sacrifices the Iranian government is likely to do. So, again, in your oracle hat, What do you expect as an outcome of the meeting on Saturday?
So I think that firstly, it's a meeting of historical proportions because it's the first time in 40 years that there is a likelihood of Iran engaging in direct discussions with the United States. It has not happened for 40 years. It will be an interesting event, and the questions are who will attend from the United States and who will attend from Iran. So from the US, it will be Steve Witkoff, who's the presidential envoy. Unfortunately, his knowledge of Iran is very limited, so at the moment discussions are going on as to who should accompany him on this meeting. And the good news is that they've found two people, one from the Obama administration days on the JCPOA, and another person who's familiar with the Iran file who will attend the meeting with Witkoff. So this part of it is, I think, a little better than I was expecting. On the Iran side, the debate is, should this be a meeting attended by the Foreign Affairs Ministry, i.e. the Foreign Minister Arakchi, or should it be by somebody who is from the Supreme Leader's office, either Shamkhani or Larijani? I think at the moment, but it's not yet final, it looks like Mr. Arakchi will attend the meeting. So I think that we've got a good two senior level people attending. I think the Omani role will be critical in ensuring that at least in the first few hours, there is a civilized way to communicate with each other. And after that, I understood from Oman that they are more likely to allow the two people to talk to each other directly rather than through intermediaries. On the intermediaries front, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Russia, Turkey, Iraq, Italy, United Kingdom, E3 have all offered to intermediate. There are no shortages of intermediaries. The reason why Oman was chosen was Oman does not need anything from the United States. And so the Iran assessment was that Oman would be a better player because it will focus really on the Iran file, as opposed to other states that may want to extract something from the US in return. And so then what is on the menu for discussions? Firstly, it's the nuclear file. I am cautiously optimistic that that will be resolved, where Iran will agree to limit its stockpile to 3.67% of enrichment levels, and the enriched uranium that it has enriched to 60% will be stored. The question is whether it should be stored in Russia or can it be stored in Iran. Iran will say it must be stored in Iran so as to be a deterrent, and the United States might well say, no, we don't accept that. So that's a sticky point. Secondly, the sunset clauses that are due to expire in October. Sunset is where all the restrictions on Iranian stockpile, Iranian ballistic missile program are all going to be lifted. Iran will say, we didn't get out of the first JCPOA, you did, so why do we now have to pay the price for being locked up for another 4 or 5 years? Chances are that Iran will compromise that, and there will be another sunset for 5 years. The third question is non-interference in Arab affairs. I think largely, whether by hook or by crook, that has happened. I think Israel has completely immobilized Iran's friends in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Palestine. And largely Iraq is on the fence, but I think that the Iraqi appetite to help Iran is also somewhat limited. So Arab interference now is less of an issue. The questioning of Israel's right to exist, that has been a symbolic position that the Supreme Leader has been taking all along, but I think that they understand that that is more rhetoric in a way to divide the Arab street. It may or may not have worked. At the end of the day, there are many in Iran who are asking, what is our goal in Palestine? We are a Shia state, we are Persians. The Palestinian conflict is a Sunni conflict by and large, and it is nothing to do with Iran. So why are we the sole cheerleaders for this war? And we should extricate ourselves. Why do we need to be even more Palestinians than the Palestinians themselves? Why do we need to be more Arabs than the Arabs themselves? And so there is a body of people who will say, we don't need to be involved in this anymore. So I am cautiously optimistic that this will be a good first meeting, followed by a second meeting in the White House, where President Pezeshkian will see Trump face to face.
Cautiously optimistic is a very good way to end this panel. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I wish I could have taken some questions from the audience. I'm sure some people would have liked to challenge back at some of the points you have raised. We haven't gotten to talk about Syria, Lebanon, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about Israel, but you're available throughout the day.
I'm here,
So
sure.
I hope anybody who has follow-up questions can come up to you.
Well, they can come to you as well. You are an expert as well.
Thank you so much for your time, and well, it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure having this discussion with you. Thank you.
Pleasure.